Hello and welcome back to Promo Show's Holiday Gift Show. I hope you guys are enjoying your time on the floor with some amazing suppliers.
Yes.
It's been a busy day so far.
Very busy.
So I've heard some feedback from some of the people in the booths that it's been busy on the show floor. So if you are a supplier out there, I hope you're getting lots of visitors. If you would like to be entered and get some extra entries into our great self-promo giveaways at the end of the show, you need to hop into those booths and say hello.
Yes.
So be sure you're doing that. And up next, we have a very special guest, Jolie Goodson, also known as the Branding Badass.
She is.
I love that name. She is a senior account manager at Genumark. She is a keynote speaker and host of her very own podcast called Branding Matters. So we're going to welcome her.
Awesome. Let's bring Jolie on to talk about how to stand out in a crowded market.
Excellent.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Jolie. All right, we're going to pass the floor over to you. So welcome.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to do this. I feel so honored to be sharing this information with my fellow merch makers and promotional product suppliers. So hi, everybody. I also appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to listen to this. I hope you're going to find it helpful. And this is just a little quick teaser of what's going to be coming. If you happen to be attending the Promotions East show in Atlantic City in October, I'm actually going to be doing a full presentation there. So I hope I'm going to see you there. You might have seen our social media campaign we've been doing all over social media with the big blue box. And every day this week, I'm going to be posting what's in the box and just little tips. So I hope you'll tune in. But today we're going to talk about 3 tips to help you stand out in a crowded marketplace. So before we get in, I want to talk a little bit about why branding matters. So what is branding? Branding is about differentiating yourself. It's about standing out from people that are doing the same things as you're doing. So basically, you're standing out from your competition. And today, there is more competition than there has ever been. And that's because of this thing called the World Wide Web that we're all on. So our competition isn't just the guy down the street or the other people in our town, but it's really the whole world. So it is more competitive than ever. And right now, especially after the pandemic, there's a thing called digital saturation, and you probably see it yourself. You're online and you're looking through and you're scrolling through, and after a while your eyes just glaze over. And that's why now more than ever branding matters, because branding is a way for you to differentiate yourself and get noticed, and then to get people to stop the scroll and learn more about who you are and what you have to offer and what makes you different. Branding is about being better. It's about being different. So how do you accomplish this? How do you build a brand that stands out and makes you different? Well, branding, as I mentioned, it's not about being better, it's about being different. So the first thing is tapping into I call it your badass superpower. And I love this picture because here we have a bunch of superheroes and they all have a very unique, distinctive superpower. But it doesn't mean one is better than the other. Batman is not better than Superman, and Wonder Woman is not better than I actually don't know what the other superheroes are, but the point is they all have a unique superpower that makes them stand out and makes them different. And that is really what branding is. It's not about being better, but it's about really being different. And when you tap into your badass superpower, that is what's going to differentiate yourself. I have a podcast you heard her mention, Lori mentioned at the beginning. It's called Branding Matters. And I bring on leaders from all over the world, from all different industries. And I ask them all different questions, very specific to each episode. But I do ask one question that is the same for every guest. And that is, what is your badass superpower? And I'll tell you, I'm just about on my 100th episode, and nobody has said the same answer twice. So what does that tell me? That tells me that they are all leaders in their field, but they all have a unique superpower that makes them leaders. And so if you can lean in and reach in and find out what your superpower is, that is going to be a great start to helping you figure out what your brand is and how to make yourself stand out. So you might have heard of the book called The Purple Cow. And another guest I had on my show, Seth Rogen, he is world-renowned marketer, and he wrote a book called Purple Cow. And the premise is not that the cow is better than all the other cows, but it's that the cow is different. And he talks about remarkability. And so creating a strong brand is about being remarkable. And being remarkable isn't about doing something better than everybody else, but it's about doing something that is so unique that people are going to remark about you. So I'm going to tell you the story that Seth shared with me when I had him on. And he talks a story about the purple cow when he brought his family to France and they were driving along the countryside. And, he was saying how if we're driving along and we see all these cows and you see them all and you're like, oh, wow, cows. And that's so cool and everything. And then you keep driving a little more and like, oh, wow, there's more cows. And okay. And then by the third time, it's like, oh, look at the cows. And nobody looks, right? Because they've seen the same cows. They all look the same. And there's no reason to stop or to make any remark about them. But imagine if they were driving along and all of a sudden they saw a purple cow. Well, chances are they'd probably stop the car. They'd get out of the car. They'd go over to where the cow is. They'd take pictures of the cow. They'd probably take selfies with the cow. And then they'd post these selfies all over social media. And they'd tell their friends about it. And they'd create this real buzz about this cow just because it's purple. So being remarkable is not about being better, but it's being so different and so unique and standing out that people remark about you and they tell other people. And this is a great way to grow your brand. So once you've figured out what your badass superpower is, then you want to figure out ways that you can be remarkable. So people are going to share about you and about your product and about your service with other people. Because by being remarkable, you're not only going to build a strong brand, but you're also going to start to build brand advocates. And those are the people that are going to share about your business and your brand with others. And what happens? You start creating brand awareness. So here's an example. You can see I'm wearing it today, one of my badass t-shirts. When I started my podcast, I launched it and it's called Branding Matters, but I call myself the branding badass. And if you want to learn why I call myself the branding badass, you're going to have to come to Promotions East because I share that story. But so when I decided to do these t-shirts, I thought, okay, well, I can do these t-shirts and I can promote my podcast on the front and I could just put Branding Matters. But then I thought, well, if I do that, who's going to wear the t-shirt? Because maybe a few people who maybe understand the concept of branding, but the majority of the population won't. So I thought, okay, but what if I put badass on the front? Because ultimately, we all have an inner badass that we need to fuel, right? We talk about superpower. You can call it your inner badass. But I think everyone that's on here right now is a badass in their own right. So I thought I'll be able to connect with people on a better level, on a stronger level, if I put badass on the t-shirt, because now they're going to want to wear it because they can identify with that. And as you know, you're in the promotional products industry. You all sell merch. This is something that I think we all talk about. And if we not, we should, is instead of your clients just putting their logo on their merch, what is something that's going to help them connect with their audience? So when they're looking at buying something, instead of just putting their logo on it, making suggestions that will make them remarkable by putting maybe a fun tagline or something provocative or something that's going to create engagement and connection. And so just by me simply putting badass on my t-shirt, and I should preface by saying I only did a few t-shirts at the start just to promote my podcast. Well, what happened was that people started stopping me every time I wore it. And they're like, oh my God, where'd you get your t-shirt? I love it. I want one. And I was like, well, actually, I have a podcast. And I do have my podcast logo, but it's just small on the back yoke. And so people started wanting them. I actually gave somebody one of my used badass t-shirts because she begged me and she wanted one so badly and I didn't have enough. So I gave her one of mine. And then I thought, okay, well, obviously there's something here. So I made a whole bunch and I now sell them on my website, my Branding Matters website. And so people started buying them. Not only did they start buying them, they started posting about them and they started taking selfies and they would send me pictures of them. So again, I don't think I'm better than anybody else, but just by doing this little thing, it's made these t-shirts and ultimately my brand remarkable because people started remarking about them and sharing about them and wearing the t-shirt. Something simple like that. So think about what you can do to make you remarkable and to make your clients remarkable. So everything I'm sharing with you today, I think it's really important for you to think about because you want to stand out, but also it's great tips to help your clients do the same thing because ultimately we're all branding experts, right? We're trying to help our clients promote their brands. The next tip, this is probably showing my age a little bit if anybody remembers spy versus spy, but this is a really important tip. Know your competition. Get to know your competition. It is so important to get to know your competition. I'm going to share why. Because as I mentioned at the very beginning, branding is about differentiating yourself and standing out. Well, how are you going to know to differentiate yourself if you don't know what your competition is doing? Right? So the first step in differentiating yourself after you've tapped into your badass superpower and you know what makes you unique and different than everybody else is you need to know who the other people are that are doing what you're doing. Now, I'm assuming if you're on here, we're all in the same industry, so we're all competitors to a degree. So how are we going to differentiate ourselves? We all sell the same thing. We all sell mugs. We all sell t-shirts. We all do the same thing. So what's going to differentiate you and how are you going to know your competition? So a great way to know your competition is to stalk them. I know it sounds funny, but it's true. Find out where they are. You know, most of us are on social. So check out their social media, check out their Facebook, check out their Instagram, check out their LinkedIn. If you're not on LinkedIn, you should be on LinkedIn because your competition is on LinkedIn, but also your clients are on LinkedIn and your future clients are on LinkedIn. So you should be on there and watching and checking out what your competition is doing, what your competition is saying, but this is the most important one of all. Find out what problems your competition is solving. Because part of differentiating yourself is solving the problem that nobody else is solving. And again, going back to your badass superpower, what is it? What's the problem that you can solve that none of us can say that we're solving? And how do you find that out? Is by finding out what your competition is saying on social and sharing about what they're doing and what problems they're solving. And then the key is to lean it, find out what they're not solving, find out what problem you know exists, but nobody's talking about. Whatever that problem is, find it out. And then that is what you lean into. And that is what you use to help grow your business and differentiate yourself, is solve the problem that nobody else is solving. Because as we all know, our clients have a ton of problems. And so figuring out what the problem is that no one else is talking about, that's what you want to talk about. And that's a great way, again, differentiating yourself and standing out. I like these little memes here. So once you've figured out the problem that you want to solve, and there's one more thing I want to talk about competition. Sorry, I skipped ahead a little bit. Is when you're learning about your competition and you're figuring out, what they're doing, what their problems they're solving, all the rest of it. Another reason it's really important to get to know your competition is because it's also a great thing to do is to collaborate with your competition. Collaboration is such a great way to strengthen bonds within your community, but also it shows your clients and your audience that you're a team player. I love collaborating. As I mentioned, I'm part of this Promotions East social media campaign. It's all with my competitors, but we're all working together and it's so much fun. Coming on here today, speaking at the Promotions East, doing things together. You don't have to worry about stealing each other's clients. It just strengthens what you're doing and it builds up our community as a whole. So think of ways that you can also collaborate with your competitors because it'll go a long way to strengthen your brand and, believe it or not, make you stand out. So now you know who your competition is, you know what they're doing, you know what they're saying, you figured out what they're not doing, and you figured out what they're not saying. So now here's your chance to go out there and promote your brand. I mentioned digital saturation earlier. Everybody's on social media and everybody's saying the same thing pretty much. There's a few people that are doing things different, but for the most part, it's pretty much the same. So how do you go out there and how do you create content that is going to help differentiate yourself from everybody else? Because I get that question all the time. It's like, Jolie, I don't know what to say. And, I know I should be on social. I know I should be on LinkedIn. I know I should be on Instagram. I know I should be on any other platform, but I don't know what to say. And, I don't have that much time. And I get it, trust me, because it takes time and it takes thoughtfulness. So how do you create the content that is going to help to build your brand and help you stand out? ILTEE. Just 5 little letters, but it's a very powerful acronym that write it down. So ILTEE stands for invest, learn, teach, edify, and execute. So make sure and write that down. And I'm going to share with you what each one means. So first one is invest. So you want to invest your time or you want to invest your money or whatever. You want to invest in things that are going to help you be better, be a thought leader. So whether it's listening to podcasts, did I mention I have a podcast called Branding Matters that helps you create brand equity? There's tons of great podcasts out there. Invest in trade shows, attending trade shows, learning about what's new, what's the hottest item, investing in books, investing your time and money in books. There's so many ways that you can learn things. Here's a great tip for you. Google Alerts. Google Alerts are so fantastic. So you just type in sort of subjects that you think might be interesting to the people you're trying to serve. What's going to help them? Because I mentioned it's about solving people's problems. So do Google Alerts with different problem solving ideas. And you'll get every day. You can decide if you want once a day or once a week, whatever is going to work for you. And so now you've invested this time and effort and money. And so the next L stands for learn. So learn as much as you can with these and with these investments. So when you listen to a podcast and you learn something new, write it down. Same thing with a book, same thing with the trade shows, any events, Google Alerts. So make sure that if you're going to invest, you want to learn something that's important, not necessarily to you, but most importantly to your audience and the people you're trying to serve. What is going to interest them? And then T is teach. So you've invested and you've learned, and now take what you've learned and teach it. Share it with the people, again, that you're trying to connect with, because we all love to learn new things. And so what a great way to do that. And most importantly is that you come off as a leader and an expert. You talk about you're a branding expert or you're an expert at this or a merch expert. You become known as a leader when you're constantly teaching people things that are going to help them, because at the end they don't care about you, they care about themselves and what's in it for me by listening to you. So you want to make sure the content that you're teaching is something that's going to be valuable to them. And then E, and this is really, really important, especially because of what's happening with social media and everything days, is edify. So whenever you learn something new, make sure and edify the source. So I will edify ILTEE. I had a guest on my show, Ray Higdon was one of my guests, and we talked about ILTEE. And I learned that term from him, and it changed my life. And so that is edifying the source of where you got that information from, because you don't want to be stealing other people's content and say that's your own. It's totally fine to share, and you can share as much information as you want. Just edify where you got it. And all you have to do is say, hey, I read this book by this great author called so-and-so, and this is what I learned, and I think you're going to find it valuable too. Or I listened to this great podcast called Branding Matters, and I heard this Seth Godin was on, and he talked about Purple Cow, and I think this is really going to help you, so I want to share it with you today. So edify the source. And then the last one, pardon me, is execute, because it's so important to practice what you preach. So whatever you've learned, whatever you're talking about, make sure you actually do those things yourself, right? So I could come on here right now and I could tell you about ILTEE and go through all this and not, edify Ray Higdon, who I got it from. So you got to practice what you preach. So execute. I guarantee you, just by following this, you're going to find it so much easier to create content, which is going to help you build your brand. So as I mentioned, this is really short time. I only had a few minutes to share a few little tips to help you build your brand and stand out in a crowded marketplace. This is my podcast. I'm really proud of it. I started it on January 1st, 2021. I've been named number 3 on Canada's 10 Best Branding Podcasts, number 2 on Good Pods, and other lists. And I've been getting rave reviews. And I can't take the full credit. Honestly, the credit goes to my guests, because my whole goal was to bring on leaders from around the world and come on and share valuable branding tips to help you build your brand. And so it's working. I've been getting great feedback. It's growing. And so if you want more tips, it's free. So just check it out on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever you listen to podcasts. And it's like I said, I'm about to hit my 100th episode, and each guest will share valuable tips to help you build your brand and stand out in the most crowded marketplace we've ever had. And all I ask from you is that please rate it and leave a review. So that's the currency for listening to it, if you want to. And I'd love to hear your feedback. So again, if you want to reach out to me, here's my contact information. Check out my website. If you're looking for speakers, I started doing public speaking or keynote speaking recently. I've had people reach out to me because they want to learn more about branding. So if you have an event coming up and you would like me to come and speak at your event, feel free to reach out to me. Check out my website. I have all my podcasts on there. And I also do consulting now on the side as well to help businesses and entrepreneurs specifically build their brands. So here's all my contact. You can also find me on social media as well. So that's it. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you. I welcome all feedback, comments, questions, and I hope to see you at Promotions East. So thank you very much.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much, Julie.
That was awesome.
I'm still stuck on the do something provocative.
Yes.
I love that.
And solve the problem no one else is solving. I like that
Yes.
too. Mm-hmm.
That's key.
It is key. Love it. So thank you so much for joining us. If you are going to Promotions East in October, you can catch Jolie there, and she will be elaborating on this topic and going into more details. So check that out, and check out her podcast. 100 episodes.
That's congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think I'm on like 97 or something, launching this Friday. So
That's very exciting. Congratulations on that. So we enjoyed
and rate it and leave a review.
Yes. I definitely will leave a review. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And this will be on our social channels. So if people missed it or came in late, they can watch it in its entirety on Promo Corner's social channels as well.
Oh,
so thanks so much, Jolie.
Thanks, Jolie.
Okay, thanks, guys. Have a great day.
You too. All right. So
That
much
was awesome. I
done.
know. I took a whole bunch of notes.
I did too. I can't wait till our next meeting when we can start brainstorming provocative ideas. That'll be fun.
We need our badass shirts.
Yes, we definitely need our badass shirts. So excellent. All right. Let's see. If you have been on the show floor, you're automatically entered for some great giveaways at the end of the show. We have a few more things.
Yes, Karen Rich, 3:00. Do not miss it. Wrap up your stress for the holidays.
That's really important.
Yeah.
And you must, if you want the extra entries for the self-promo giveaways, you must get into the booths by 3:30. We want you going into the booths after 3:30. The show goes until 4 Eastern time, but at 3:30, we're going to stop counting the extras so we can load up our prize wheel with names and do our fun spins. So we have that coming up. And just one more shout out to the suppliers who have generously donated self-promo giveaways. So we have Bay State, we have Branded Treats, Cap America, Coaster Stone, and Media Tree.
And Cliff.
And Cliff Pixel.
Yep.
So Cliff's is not a self-promo. His is a 1-hour consultation. So if you would like to meet with Cliff for an hour and pick his brain, he's got a lot of great stuff in that brain.
He does.
All right. So we will be announcing all of those winners at 4:00 at the close of the show. But join us back here in about 35 minutes for Karen Rich.
See you soon.